Our guest is cinematographer Adam Newport-Berra. Hello.
How's it going?
How are you? Everything okay?
Great. Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
You just said to me you're enjoying Toruń.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful time.
Had the time to walk around or
Yeah,
just
took a
sitting in the
little
cinema?
tour. No, a little bit of both, but yeah, it's been nice.
Great. You have a film, new film of course, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, directed by Joe Talbot. You did his cinematography. Interesting thing, many interesting things about this film, but also it's based on, from what I understand, the real story.
Yeah.
And even the main actor who plays the lead role, he plays basically himself. And this is a personal story also for the director, Joe Talbot. So my first question to you is, what is it? What is the experience for you as a cinematographer on this film to be working on a very personal story? Did you feel a little more responsibility for it, or for finding an appropriate visual language to tell this story?
Yeah, I mean, that was a huge part of it. I felt an enormous responsibility to do justice to Joe and Jimmy. They had been trying to make this movie for years. And when they finally were able to make it, it was a huge moment for them. And I really came to love them as people, and I really came to understand their relationship with the city. And not only was it important for them, but it's important for so many people in San Francisco and the rest of the country and the world to just understand how important place is to identity. So I really felt more responsibility than ever, not only to create something special with them, but to make sure that it kept their energy and their life in it. And to do that, I really felt like I just had to spend time with them and get to know them and understand what was important to them and how they saw the city. And normally I kind of like to venture out on my own and kind of create my own understanding and my own look, but it was so important to just spend time with them. And just understand them better, because that totally informed how I shot the city.
It's a film mainly about, from my understanding of it, is searching for identity or trying to reclaim your identity. And you said that the place is very important for identity. And I think, I imagine that this is a very good in the filmmaking, from the filmmaking point of view, because this trying to reclaim the house, and the house as a sort of metaphor for this identity. You have something very organic, you have a certain place to stand in for this identity. So I imagine it's good from the filmmaking point of view that you have this very, a concrete thing to represent it.
Yeah, it was very tangible. And that was what was so fun about it, is that the locations were never just a setting for the scene. The locations were this reason the scene was happening. And that's such a cool experience, because you don't get that all the time. And it was really amazing, the house that they found, because they found that before I came onto the film. And normally when I come onto a film, I'm a big part of the location process, and I like to scout with the director and the production designer and help choose the locations. And I was a bit nervous coming into the film, because I knew that a lot of the locations already had been chosen. But they did such an amazing job, and they were so fun to photograph, that I was really just, one thing always informed the other, and it was such it was such a dialogue between the location and the actor. It just made it such a pleasure, and it made my job kind of easy in a way, What was the main idea in visual terms? So yours and the director, Joe Talbot, what did you try to achieve in like a visual language of the story? What was the most important thing for you? I think we really wanted to make something that was very singular and unique, that didn't really feel like anything anyone had seen before. And that's kind of a lofty goal to have.
Yeah, I think that's a tall order. Really.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. But I mean, I haven't seen a story exactly like this with these types of characters in this city, and so we set ourselves up to be able to do that, and we really wanted it to feel very iconic. We wanted it to be the kind of thing where you remember images like paintings on a wall. You know what I mean? So we took a very photographic approach, in that we didn't have a lot of coverage, and each frame had to mean something and say something. It was never about just covering a scene. The photography often inspired the blocking of the actors. We would find frames that we felt were meaningful and put the actors in it, as opposed to
the other way around.
Exactly. And I think that was, normally I tend not to do that, because I think it can be difficult for actors to work in that way. But it tended to work really well, especially because we had a lot of less experienced actors. So it kind of gave them a little bit of a space to work in. You know, if we were like, okay, this is where we want you to be, this is what how we want you to move. It allowed them to focus more on their performance and less on like where they should be and how they should be moving. Yeah. And I don't think that approach works for every film, but I think it worked well for this one. Mm-hmm.
You also worked on Euphoria.
I did.
The famous TV series.
Yeah.
It's a great TV series.
Thank you.
And it's a teen drama, but it's a very singular teen drama. It's a teen drama like I've never seen before. It has its own original visual language, and it has this fantastic strategy of the creator to provoke the audience, to make something provocative in order to make them interested and make them see the drama of these characters. So taking into account all of this, what was the experience like for you to be part of creating this world?
Euphoria was a very different experience because it was television and it was a different scale and very different content. But you know, it all started with trying to understand the language and the vocabulary that we were telling the story in. And I came in for the last 2 episodes. So they had already shot 6 episodes by the time I came in. And they had really, Marcel Rev and Sam, the director creator, had created like a really amazing world for me to work in. Yeah. And then Sam, you know, really gave me a lot of freedom to take that world and then sculpt it in the way that I wanted to. And Sam was constantly pushing me to make things more intricate, more sophisticated, crazier. And it was a really challenging and like very rewarding process. But yeah, I think what's really cool about Euphoria is that it has this veneer of something really sensational and beautiful and very alluring. But when you know, once we suck people into that world, you show them actually how dark and how difficult it can be. And I think that was sort of the genius of it, is that...
and you also, when you show them how dark it can be and difficult, you also create an enormous empathy towards these young people. I felt that empathy very much.
Yeah, it was the camera style was very subjective, which I think was so smart. You know, the design of the camera work was really never meant to be anything but inside the character's mind. And I think that was the most fun part about it, is that we were always taking the most subjective approach to every scene, to really be with the characters, because I think it's really easy to, especially in the television format, to sort of create labels and assign archetypes to certain characters. Yes. But I think Sam did an incredible job of setting us up to avoid that. So that we would set up an archetype or an expectation for a person, but then completely break it down and destroy it. And I think that we were able to do that through very subjective camera work. Yeah.
So from what you're saying, because of course working on TV series, like you said, especially if you come in at the end of the show, there's already a language established, there's already a style established, and you came in. But from what you're saying, if I understand correctly, it still allowed you a lot of freedom, given the fact that it was you know, you had to work within a frame, within a structure, but you still had enough freedom for you to feel creative.
Totally, yeah. It was a really ideal situation. I think they had set it up in a really amazing way, in that I understood the tools that they were using. You know, it was a very limited set of lenses that we were using. The lighting was sort of a very specific approach, but the camera work and the camera movement, really all that mattered, the formula was that it always sort of reflected the internal journey. And every episode is different, you know. We're not repeating the same story in every episode. We're sort of introducing a new character's backstory and a new plot line in almost every episode. So we were able to just explore that on our own right, and also kind of give each episode its own vibe, because each episode is sort of inspired by one of the characters. So we could take that character's sort of essence and try to inject that into the episode. So it really just created this super creative atmosphere that was unlike kind of anything I had ever done before, because we had the resources to be really creative on the spot. You know, we had a lot of people, a lot of manpower, a lot of equipment, and a decent amount of time. So we were able to just explore and try things and take risks, and we had the people to help us execute it. It's cool. And the actors are incredible. Yeah, they're so good, so good. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.